We're at the world's largest stamp show in the United States that only takes place once a decade. This is the World Stamp Show, New York City, 2016. We're at the Jacob Javits Center. And today, NASA joins the United States Postal Service to dedicate Pluto Explored and the Views of Our Planets Forever stamps.
Well, back in the early 1990s, the U.S. Postal Service issued a set of stamps about the exploration of the planets, commemorating the first mission to each planet from Mercury all the way to Neptune. And for Pluto, the only thing that could be said was not yet explored. So when we were going to launch a spacecraft to Pluto, we affixed one of those stamps on the spacecraft to fly it all the way to Pluto and get it canceled, because we were determined to accomplish the exploration of the farthest planet.
I'm delighted to be here with you to dedicate these incredible stamps that are literally out of this world. And this is the ideal place to dedicate these stamps because you, perhaps more than any other audience, appreciate our stamps and the work we put into designing and producing each one. The Postal Service is proud to share with you these Views of Our Planet stamps, which feature 8 truly beautiful images of the planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Each image was obtained during an extraordinary era of space exploration. Some of the images, like the one of Saturn taken by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and the one of Neptune taken by Voyager 2, show the planet's true colors, what we might see with our own eyes if traveling through space. Other stamp images are color enhanced to highlight certain planetary features based on sensor readings. For example, the view of Mercury from the Messenger spacecraft uses various hues to show different rock formations on the surface. And the Venus stamp provides a simulated view of the planet's surface based on radar readings from NASA's Magellan spacecraft. Then we have images that use near-infrared spectrum to show things that can't normally be seen by the human eye. For example, the Jupiter and Uranus stamp appear in pastel colors based on images taken by the Hubble telescope. Which brings me finally to the Pluto Explored Forever stamps, which celebrate the first reconnaissance of Pluto by NASA's New Horizons spacecraft. That historic flyby took place just last summer, after New Horizons traveled over 3 billion miles in its 9-year journey. I'm proud to tell you there's a special postal connection to the Pluto Explored stamps. In 1991, the Postal Service issued a Pluto Not Yet Explored stamp that served as a rallying cry for those who very much wanted to explore it. At the time, Pluto was still considered a planet, and it was the only one in our solar system that hadn't been visited by a spacecraft. Well, in 2006, NASA placed a 29-cent Pluto Not Yet Explored stamp on board the New Horizons spacecraft, which, it's safe to say, makes it the most widely traveled stamp in the universe.
It's a privilege to be with all of you on this first day of issue at the World Stamp Show. It's a proud day for the Postal Service, for NASA, and for all who love exploration and discovery. Like you, we want to answer some of the biggest questions facing humanity, such as, where did we come from, and are we alone? You may not know this, but NASA and the Postal Service go back a few decades when it comes to commemorative stamps. Here are a few of my favorites, blasts from the past, to share with you today. This 2011 stamp featuring the first American in space, Alan Shepard. On May 5th, 1961, he flew 116 miles above Earth on the Mercury spacecraft, which was barely large enough to hold one person. He named the capsule Freedom 7. This stamp commemorates our Apollo 11 mission, the first to land humans on the moon, in what Neil Armstrong described as a giant leap for mankind on July 20th, 1969. Many of us in this audience remember the moon landing as kids. It jump-started interest in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math fields. Today, NASA is working to encourage more diversity in STEM fields. Women and people of color are underrepresented in our journey to Mars, but we want to make sure everyone feels welcome at the table. With the challenges we're facing today, we need all hands on deck. This is a series of 5 iconic images from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, which was launched in 1990 and is still operating today. Hubble has reshaped how we view the cosmos, with clear and deep views without interference from Earth's atmosphere. Since it takes so long for light to travel from enormous distances, Hubble is seeing the universe as it was in its infancy. It's a time machine of sorts. In 2018, NASA will launch the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble's successor, which you see here being constructed at our Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. It will study every phase of the history of the universe, from the first glows after the Big Bang to the formation of solar systems possibly capable of supporting life, planets like Earth. And it'll help us understand the evolution of our own solar system. The issuing of these views of the planets and Pluto explored images have special significance for NASA, since these represent the culmination of a half-century of space exploration. Not only have we sent humans into low Earth orbit and onto the International Space Station, where they have lived for 15 years continuously, and where astronaut Scott Kelly recently completed a year in space. NASA missions have taken humankind to all the planets of the solar system. We can now declare mission accomplished. With the July 14th, 2015 flyby of Pluto, we've completed the checklist of all of the classical planets. And what a delightful surprise Pluto turned out to be. Instead of a dull space rock that many of us expected, I plead guilty, Pluto has proven itself to be a complex and dynamic world with mountains, really cool moons, exotic ices, and even a heart. In 1991, the Postal Service issued a stamp that said Pluto not explored. You'll hear more about that in a few minutes from Principal Investigator Alan Stern. 25 years later, we're here to celebrate the fact that Pluto has indeed been explored, and what a place we have found it to be. And the Postal Service rallied in near record time with this updated stamp to set the record straight. So today is a celebration of 50 remarkable years of solar system exploration. That's why the issuing of these Views of the Planet stamps is so important to me and to all of us at NASA. We appreciate the Postal Service's acknowledgement of this remarkable achievement. I'll leave you with this thought. While we're celebrating today, the job of space exploration is far from over. NASA's fleet of robotic explorers, rovers, orbiters, and spacecraft like Juno, which is on its way to its July 4th arrival at Jupiter, are leading the way until we get humans in the vicinity of Mars in the 2030s, what we call NASA's journey to Mars. I believe it will take humans on the surface of Mars, cracking open a lot of rocks and doing real-time science to tell us if Mars is presently or was ever home to primitive life forms. We will know the answer to that in our lifetimes. So please excuse me while I go to stock up on some Pluto and planetary stamps. I may actually have to stop emailing and actually start sending some letters again. So thanks to the Postal Service, and enjoy this great day and our beautiful stamps.
I'm delighted to introduce our next distinguished speaker today, also from NASA. Dr. Jim Green is the director of the Planetary Science Division at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., where he serves as the top advocate and spokesman for NASA's planetary missions. Under his leadership, NASA has successfully completed or launched missions to Pluto, Mercury, Jupiter, and the Moon, and to Mars. Dr. Green has received numerous awards, including the Arthur S. Fleming Award, which is given for outstanding individual performance in the federal government, and he was awarded Japan's Katani Prize in recognition of his contributions to international science data management. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Jim Green.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, it's really a great pleasure to be here. It's a great day for America and Americans. And what you may not realize how important these stamps are, I hope to be able to give you that perspective. The American people who have funded NASA to do remarkable things. These stamps represent those remarkable things. NASA is the only agency that has visited every one of our planets and did it first. Absolutely. We have done the initial survey of our solar system, and it's been beyond our imagination. It's almost in the past impossible to have thought about what we have seen and accomplished. The American people need to know this, and the American people need to be proud of what our accomplishment has been. But we also need to recognize that it's important for us to do this. One would not let their 2-year-old child run in a street. One would want that child to know everything about the environment that he or she is in. And NASA is doing that for this world by examining what's going on in the solar system and by looking and finding other solar systems. The Kepler spacecraft, which has observed 120,000 stars, thousands of other planets, has told us that there are more planets in the galaxy than there are stars. This brings up, of course, the natural thought that maybe there's also life on those planets. In our lifetime, we have completed this initial exploration of the solar system, and I hope we are only years away from discovering life beyond Earth. And we will do that, I believe, by first examining in greater detail many of these planets. What a spectacular set of stamps that represent this major achievement. I want to mention that your space program is not idle. We have a number of missions that in this image show that are either flying today or are being built and will be launched shortly. On July 4th, another very important day for Americans, NASA will put into orbit around Jupiter the Juno spacecraft. Juno will study that body and try to understand its composition and its structure. It is the largest planet in our solar system. And by comparing with Kepler data, we now know it is one of the more unusual planets. Large Jupiters are not seen everywhere in other solar systems. This body tells us about how the initial cloud collapsed and the composition that started the worlds that we see today. Juno will fly right over the cloud tops, measuring the aurora and the beautiful spectacles that that planet will present. But we're not done there. Also this year, beginning September 8th, opens the window for a launch of the OSIRIS-REx mission to an asteroid. You know, an asteroid that's 500 meters in diameter. It's what we call a carbonaceous chondrite, and it has carbon-based material that may have seeded this planet early on with bombardments by other objects that are similar to it. What a spectacular mission, which will come down to the surface, acquire a sample, and bring it back in the next several years for us to examine forever, to understand the basic building blocks of our solar system. It's a fabulous time to be alive. These stamps commemorate this major accomplishment that NASA and the American people have achieved. Congratulations.
Our next speaker is Norman Keurig, an oceanographer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. With his knowledge of biological oceanography and computer programming, Mr. Keurig turned satellite data of the Earth's oceans into more accessible visual images for researchers at NASA and other organizations. Everyone, please give a big welcome for Norman Keurig.
Thank you, Ms. Castellano. Hello. I'd like to start by thanking the U.S. Postal Service for choosing to produce these stamps that show off the planets of our solar system so well. It's an honor to be here at this ceremony. So I'm the kind of guy who, left to my own devices, will always come back late from a hike. The inexorable tractor beam of curiosity keeps pulling me around the next bend or block, and then over the next ridge or bridge to see whatever might lie beyond. Sometimes when shadows are lengthening, and especially if I'm in a remote location, a little voice will start to pester me with, "If you don't turn around right now, there's no way you'll make it back before dark." Or, "Whoa, your water is 2/3 gone, better head back." But I usually resist these entreaties for a while because, well, you know, I think I hear a waterfall somewhere down in that valley. It'd be a real shame to miss that. Or, I bet there's a great view from Manhattan up there on the Brooklyn Bridge. There is, by the way, and you can walk across it if you want to. The wider unexplored universe pulls on me the same way. The space programs of the United States and other countries help satisfy this curiosity by gathering imagery like you are seeing today. We are fortunate to live in a time when we can remotely drive through the strangely familiar geology of Mars, view the hydrocarbon lakes of Titan, hurtle toward an encounter with the unknown in the Kuiper Belt, and even leave the solar system as the Voyager spacecraft is doing. Just 460 yards from my office, the Webb Space Telescope that Dr. Stofan mentioned is being prepared to extend our view further than ever before, back to a time when our universe was still relatively young. Wouldn't it be great to have our own personal spacecraft that could defy physics and instantly take us wherever we wanted to go in the cosmos? The fact, though, is that we cannot go wherever we would like. We are currently able, with difficulty, to send spacecraft to all of our sun's known planets, to Pluto, to comets, to moons and asteroids, to observe the sun itself. But of all the worlds that we are featuring here today, only one can keep us humans alive. This one, Mother Earth. The most inhospitable places on Earth, the frigid Antarctic interior, the burning sands of the Arabian Empty Quarter, the rarefied air at the summit of Everest, are still more suitable for human life than the most sheltered spots anywhere else in the universe. The popularity of this particular image has little to do with any skill I may have had at assembling this particular set of satellite data. No, it and others like it are popular because we see our home. You see less than 1/8 of Earth's surface in this image. But the blues, whites, greens, and browns are the air, water, soil, and plants that we depend upon for life. 214 years ago, William Wordsworth wrote, "The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon." The Industrial Revolution was getting into high gear when he wrote those words, and he was troubled that we humans were getting out of tune with Mother Earth. Fast forward to today, And the mountains of Earth data we are collecting tell us that we are more out of tune than ever before as greenhouse gases fill our skies, plastics fill our oceans, and species go extinct at an alarming rate. Don't get me wrong, I still continue that we need to continue to explore the wider universe. I am eager to see what is currently just out of our view. I hope we will listen to the increasingly insistent voice, however, telling us, whoa, your coral reefs are half gone, better turn around, or if you don't start reducing your emissions right now, you will pass the point of no return and enter a climate decidedly less friendly to human life. I'm very concerned, but also curious about what is around the next bend in Earth's future. I look through satellite data like these every day at work in hopes of catching a glimpse. We humans, for better or for worse, are a very clever species. I believe we can reverse the damage we are doing if we put our minds to it. I give you the Earth. She's a remarkably beautiful planet. Let's work to keep her that way. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Alan Stern. He is the principal investigator for NASA's New Horizons mission to Pluto, as well as chief scientist at Worldview, a privately funded ballooning company that is sending humans and payloads to the edge of space. He also serves as Associate Vice President of the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, and he's a consultant to Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin program and Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, which are making commercial space travel a reality. Please give Dr. Alan Stern a warm welcome.
Well, thank you, Ms. Castellano, and thank you to the Postal Service on behalf of New Horizons and the 2,500 Americans who worked to build the spacecraft and the launch vehicle and to send it all the way across our solar system on a spectacular mission of exploration. This is the best picture of Pluto ever made before New Horizons. Don't laugh, because I was the principal investigator, so I took that picture more or less. It was made with the Hubble Space Telescope, which is about as powerful a telescope as has ever been launched. But 3 billion miles away, that's all you can see in the distance. This is why we explore. We send spacecraft to the planets because we have to go closer to really reveal their true nature, to understand their origin, to understand our place in the universe. As you heard a little bit earlier, the U.S. Postal Service issued a set of stamps 25 years ago commemorating the exploration by NASA spacecraft of all the planets out to Neptune. And for Pluto, this was the only lame thing that could be put on a stamp. Pluto, not yet explored. And it did become a rallying cry. And it did help mobilize energy and did help many of us stay motivated during the many years it took to see a mission like New Horizons become funded. And then, just before we launched, we thought we would have a little fun and fly one of these stamps to Pluto just to cancel it. And we did that. We launched New Horizons in January of 2006 on this launch vehicle. That's our launch, with that spacecraft in the nose cone and with that stamp on the spacecraft being accelerated to the fastest speed that any spacecraft was ever launched at, setting a new record. And then it flew for 3 billion miles in 9.5 years, setting a speed record across the orbit of every planet in our solar system from Mars outward. And we arrived at Pluto last summer. And what an event it was. This is a lovely image made by New York photographer Michael Soluri, who's right over here. It's a beautiful image, isn't it? Those are actually members of our science team at the moment that they first saw a close-up of what they'd been chasing for 15 years as we built this spacecraft and flew it across the solar system. And there's Pluto with that gorgeous heart on it. What a beautiful planet. Well, I'll tell you, as Jim Green said a little bit earlier, the United States has been first to every planet in the solar system, and it's something we should all be proud of. and something that this country goes down in history for, in all the school books, in all the nations of the earth, not just today, but in future generations and across future centuries. As Carl Sagan said, there can only be one or perhaps two generations for whom the planets would be points of light in their childhood and real places later in their lives. We're in New York, and I thought it was appropriate to show these two covers of the New York Times. On the left is the New York Times on July 16th, last summer, in 2015, showing first close-up image of mountains on the surface of Pluto. And to the right is the New York Times 50 years prior to the very day, July 16th, 1965, when NASA flew the first spacecraft past Mars. In that 50 years, in that time, as many of us have grown up, as some in the room were born in the middle of that era, and were able to see all the planets in our solar system go from those points of light to being those real worlds. This country made history again and again and created a brand for ourselves, a soft power projection across the world for what we do because we give the data away for all mankind. Well, we did cancel that stamp on July the 14th last summer. We accomplished the exploration of the farthest worlds that humans have ever visited. But New Horizons isn't done. We've proposed to go on and explore even further. We've proposed a flyby of a primordial Kuiper Belt object in 2019. And soon this summer, we'll hear if NASA agrees with our proposal. In the meantime, the Postal Service has honored all of us and all of you as Americans by commemorating this exploration that completed the exploration of the planets that were known when we began the space age. And for all of us, to all of you, and particularly to the Postal Service, thank you very much. We're very proud to be Americans.
And I'm Kristal Hart reporting from the World Stamp Show 2016 in New York City. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. And hey, don't forget to mail a letter today.